Item number 11 is the Parks Master Plan Implementation Update on the Community Center and Parks.
Mayor, I'm going to be bringing over a couple of team members as panelists. Joel Kirshen with KAI and Katie Ahold with Navigate Building Solutions. And they have a presentation for the council. And Katie, do you want me to bring it up, or?
I can share it if that's okay, Barb.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started this evening. As Barb mentioned, my name is Katie Ahold, and I am a Senior Project Manager with Navigate Building Solutions. We are serving as the owner's representative for you as the City of Olivet on the Community Center and Parks Improvement projects. Tonight, we are going to give you a planning update. You can see here our agenda. We're going to touch on both the Community Center and Warson Park and the overall park improvements for the city in tonight's meeting. Both of those topics, we'll do a quick recap, touch on progress to date. We have some updated design images and renderings to share with you. We'll also talk about project phasing and schedules and really look ahead at the next steps. Lastly, we will give an update on the overall project budget and talk about where we're headed from here. The meeting goal for tonight is really for this to be an informational update to you all in preparation for upcoming approvals to go out for contractor bidding later on in June. So the last time we met was back in February of this year, which was at the completion of the design development documentation for the community center. At that time, we reviewed the floor plan and exterior renderings and material selections for the building, as well as the site plan and how the building itself is to be coordinated with the GRG Centennial Greenway. You can see on the timeline, we are here. So we are wrapping up our documentation phase of the project and heading into permits, bidding, and contracts for a mobilization by the contractor later on this summer. This slide recaps for you our progress to date specific to the community center. The design has progressed through 100% construction documents. With this, like I've mentioned, we are fully coordinated with the Centennial Greenway. We've been able to select interior finishes and materials, some of which you will be able to see here tonight. And coordination is also ongoing for the owner-provided systems. These are things like the audiovisual system, security, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Lastly, I'll note that we have completed a full constructability review of the 100% documents. Joel and his team are working right now to wrap up all of that feedback into a permit set of drawings that will be issued both to the City of Olivet and St. Louis County, targeted for June 2nd. I'm going to show you again this evening a couple of the slides you've seen before. This is the current floor plan for the community center. It is the same that you've seen kind of throughout this process. We've not had any changes to that. Just wanted to kind of recap where this was if there are new members attending here this evening. The blue spaces represent the athletic and fitness areas. You'll see to the west about a 4,000 square foot fitness facility. To the south is the full-size gymnasium. To the north is an aerobics or fitness room that can be used for classes or other activities. And rounding out the blue space is the changing suites, where we will have a set of lockers, available toilet and shower facilities. The cluster in orange is the administrative space for the community center. This includes the office space, the welcome desk, conference workroom for Parks and Recreation staff. The green spaces include an indoor playground to the north, and then the multi-purpose space where you see the series of tables kind of to the southeast corner. There are a few areas in gray that represent the technical and support areas like electrical and data closets. And lastly, the teal color towards the center of the building is the lobby or general building use space. There's some restroom facilities included in this, a parent's room, and also that lobby fireplace area that we've discussed. The dashed line through the floor plan represents the informal grand tour walking path, which we have really focused on throughout design to make sure that there will be the opportunity for visitors to take a complete lap around the building for recreation, exercise, and to just really see what's going on in the space. This slide here shows you those exterior renderings and elevations. Once again, the building is primarily designed to be metal panel system. There will be a couple of colors. There will be a dark gray, light gray, and also a wood look accent panel that will be used to highlight specific areas of the building. There will also be a green portal, as the design team has called it, that will carry really from the main entrance of the building facing east through the fitness center facing west that you will see as you approach the building as you're entering off of Orson. A couple of new views for you here this evening are some of the interior renderings. Here you'll see the teaching kitchen. This space is designed with plenty of wood laminate cabinetry. The walls are a combination of both full format tiles as well as an accent tile. You see the ranges in the back of the space. This entire wall will actually be stainless steel. What you're not seeing here is the fire protection system and kitchen exhaust hood that will also be over this in the space. The next image here shows you a view into the gymnasium from the lobby. A few things to note here are the blue and green colored panels on the walls of the gymnasium. These are acoustic panels that will help with sound dampening. You can see there is some natural light coming into this space that is from skylights both over the gymnasium and the lobby itself. I talked about the walking track earlier. It's a little bit hard to see here, but we have made carpet selections that will vary as you walk throughout the lobby space that help to denote the areas for walking and the areas where we'll have groups of furniture or seating clusters for conversation. The furniture shown here is just a placeholder. This is one of the packages that we are working to finalize over the next couple of months and begin to procure in addition to the construction phase services. The last rendering of the interior I'm going to show you tonight is the indoor playground area. This area, you can see the floor is a wood look luxury vinyl tile. This will flow into this space from the lobby and continue around the perimeter of this room, which is also an area that walking track will follow. There is a slight elevation change. You can see there's a subtle ramp up and down as you walk through this space, which will be good for additional exercise purposes. Again, we have the acoustical panels shown on the wall here for sound dampening. And that space you see in the center is an island of carpet. What is not shown here is the indoor playground structure, which is also in the procurement phase currently. This slide just shows you a closer look at some of those finishes. I know most of those finishes are available in the council chambers this evening, and I believe we intend to take a closer look at those once we wrap up the presentation. So these finishes here are specific to the indoor playground. Some of them do carry throughout the space, but we will review those samples at the conclusion of this presentation. Next, I will touch on a couple of the next steps that are specific to the community center. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we are wrapping up our documents. We are ready to issue for permitting the first week in June, and following that, we'll be ready to issue the bid documents for general contractor bidding targeted for June 30th. These bid documents will include the M, W, and DBE goals that have been established by the city at 15%. Bids are targeted to be due back at the end of July, on July 27th. We will review those bids and come back to you with a recommendation for a contract award for a general contractor at the August 11th meeting. Wanted to touch on this evening as well, the market conditions and current bidding environment. It's something we've discussed a lot in our budget and design phase, and just wanted to make sure that we're addressing that tonight. We do want to point out that our budget includes a contingency that is more than adequate for material price escalation. I'm sure you're all familiar with what is happening in the market in terms of pricing for things like wood and structural steel. I think more importantly, what we are seeing is that lead times for some of these items, specifically structural steel and things like roof joist, are much longer than normal. So we have gone through and done a schedule update, which we'll touch on here shortly, that anticipates those longer lead times and make sure that we are accommodating those in our planning. The last note I'll touch on is that our bids will include both cost and schedule information. Typically we bid on dollars, but on this particular project, we are also going to be bidding the schedule. What this does is allows the contractor to propose back to us a schedule duration that includes all risk for things like weather and long lead material items, and delegates that responsibility to them and protects the city. In addition to the bid package that we're working on for the general contractor, there is also a variety of owner furnishings that are in the procurement process. These include things like the audiovisual equipment, which is currently out for an RFQ, includes the IT equipment and security, furniture, fitness and athletic equipment, which you'll see a request for approval here this evening, the kitchen equipment, and the indoor playground equipment as well. All right, next I'm going to jump into a recap of the parks improvements. So again, the last presentation to the Olivet City Council for the parks was done in February of 2021. At this point, we were at the completion of the concept design documentation. So at that February meeting, we reviewed the individual park concept design plans, which also included some key notes that referenced back to a design manual that further defined the design intent for each of those features. At that meeting, we reviewed the scope for Proposition C and what was included in the current budget versus what would be included as a vision improvement. And lastly, we reviewed the full conceptual budget overall. Tonight, I'm going to speak most specifically to the Warson Park improvements because this is the package where the design has progressed through 100% construction documents to align with the bidding for the community center. So what we're looking to do is bid out all of the work in Warson Park, including the community center, as one package. The Warson Park improvements include the new maintenance facility, walking trails, and the splash pad. Also notable is the sustainable landscape design and the native species that will be included in the project. Touching on that because sustainability has been an overarching project goal and goal for the city. With this portion of the project as well, we have completed our constructability review, and these documents are actually submitted to MSD right now and will be part of that June 2nd submittal to the City of Olivet and St. Louis County for permitting. I think one of the biggest efforts we have undertaken over the last couple of months in terms of Warson Park improvements is related to the project phasing and site logistics plans. We've had multiple discussions on the best way to accomplish these construction activities in the park without shutting down everything for visitor access. So we've taken into consideration things like park usage, those material lead times I've mentioned, and construction sequencing. Right, this plan here shows you at a high level our project phasing. There's also a narrative that goes with this that I believe will be posted on the city's website here shortly as Beverly is able to get that. But touching on it high level, phase 1 you'll see is actually divided into phase 1A, which is what we're calling the park loop paths, and phase 1B, which will be the demolition of the existing park house. These are the two phases of the project that will begin immediately upon contractor mobilization. It is our intent for the contractor to complete those park loop paths in the southern area of the park still in the fall of this year, fall of 2021. It will be our goal to get these constructed to allow park visitors to really have a continuous walking trail on the southern portion of the park, while the majority of the northern section is under construction for the community center. Phase 1B, like I mentioned, is the park house demolition. The park house will be removed at the beginning of the project. And really this is important because it sits up on the hillside and there will be significant grading activities ongoing for both the construction of the community center and the GRG trail, which passes by in this location. Phase 2 is broken into 3 phases, the biggest of these being the new community center construction. Phase 2B is the construction of the GRG Centennial Greenway. And the third piece, phase 2C, you will see is at the intersection of the northern and southern portion of the park, which we are labeling as the connector paths. These 3 portions of phase 2 will all be completed at the same time. So I mentioned earlier that the bids will include both cost and schedule from the general contractors. So this is the phase where we anticipate mobilization will happen early on in the project, but due to lead time for things like structural steel and roof joists, the contractor may choose to delay start by a few weeks, just to make sure that they're not kind of stalled out in the middle of the project waiting on those materials. So this is the piece that we're going to bid by the contractor. We will ask them for completion in calendar days from notice to proceed, but are anticipating that this work will be wrapped up by November of 2022. Phase 3 is the new maintenance facility. So you will see all this all the way down to the south end of the park, located in a portion of the existing parking lot near the current community center. This phase is relatively standalone. We know this is a high priority for the city to get this up and complete as soon as possible, because they will be displaced from the current park house this summer prior to demolition. Phase 3 is also one of those areas that will be contingent upon long lead materials. We're hearing right now in the market that pre-engineered metal buildings can take up to 26 weeks to be delivered on site. So again, the schedule for the maintenance facility will be contingent upon the lead times and the commitments that we're able to get from the contractor that is awarded. Phases 4 and 5 will be completed after the construction of phase 2 and the new community center. This is the work to demolish the existing community center in the southern portion of the park, and then also come back in and reconstruct the splash pad that is shown in that area adjacent to the existing playground equipment located behind that community center. All right, what you see here is just a preliminary schedule. Like I mentioned, a lot of these dates are subject to change when we get a contractor on board and are able to work through the details with them. But just wanted to show you some of the logic and thinking behind the phasing plan. As I mentioned, we'll have notice to proceed and mobilization after that August 11th City Council approval. Phase 1A and 1B, the South Walking Trails and Park House demolition, will be the first to start, and we expect that these will be wrapped up early fall this year. Phase 2A, the community center construction, again, will start shortly upon mobilization, will be ongoing through late 2022. And the GRG Centennial Greenway and those park connector paths will all be wrapping up in that same time frame. Phase 3, the maintenance facility, we've planned for the lead times that I discussed. And you can see here the completion date for that is estimated in mid-2022. And then lastly, the phase 4 demolition of the community center and phase 5 splash pad and site work will follow occupancy of the community center and finish up anticipated mid-2023. Next, I'm going to show you just a few of the design plans and images for some of the park improvements that we've mentioned here this evening. So first is the splash pad design at Warson Park. Like I mentioned, this will be in the footprint of the existing community center, so immediately adjacent to the parking lot. And you can even see in the renderings the existing playground equipment in the background. This will be a space that is landscaped with some of those native plantings that we've discussed, some trees to provide shade. It will also provide an opportunity for both formal and informal seating in the area. This slide shows you a more detailed site plan for the maintenance facility and also the maintenance building itself. This is a pre-engineered metal building. As I mentioned, the dimensions are about 40 feet by 80 feet. It is 4 bays for parking both equipment and providing storage to the Parks and Recreation Department. On the exterior of the building, there will be a series of material storage bins as well as a shade structure that will allow the city to cultivate its own plantings for the parks. Also on this slide, we are showing some example finishes for the exterior of the building. These are similar materials to what is being used for the construction of the community center itself. So both of these buildings will have a similar and complementary look as they're seated in the park. So park improvement next steps. There are other things that are still moving on as we speak. One of those is being the finalization and issuance of the playground equipment RFQ. So this will go out to a series of vendors for selection, and then these partners will be included in the design process for the parks. There are 3 parks we're looking at playgrounds. We have Irveside, Villa, and Indian Meadows. And then this will also include the indoor playground equipment for the community center. Currently, the topographic surveys of the additional parks are also being completed. We have a progress meeting to receive updates on that tomorrow, but I believe progress is tracking towards a mid-June completion for all of those surveys. With this information, we are also planning to re-engage for schematic design for the parks in June. A lot of this information will inform that design, so we'll be able to get a good start based on where we're at with the conceptual planning and layering in this additional data. We are targeting Thursday, July 29th for our next public update meeting. You can see that on the timeline here. We are getting ready to dive back into that design phase and present back to you all this summer where we are in that plan. Overall, the goal is to still have the construction documents completed for these parks by the end of this year, enter into a bidding and contracting stage early of 2022, and construction timeline wrapping up at the end of December 2022, as you can see here on this schedule. All right, next I'm going to touch on the project budgets update. Did this in reverse order this evening. I'm going to talk about some of the changes that have been made to the budget and reallocations that we've completed on the total program budget before I show you where we currently stand. So I think the biggest takeaway for this evening is that the community center is tracking on budget. I mentioned the market conditions earlier, and we are confident that the contingencies that we are holding in the project are able to accommodate those material price escalation that we are experiencing in the market today. The budget also includes some design refinements expected to be funded from that available contingency. These are decisions that have been made both by the city and the design team for things like parking lot lighting at the existing parking lot. We've had some slight adjustments to the square footage of the changing suite in order to align with the structural system. Includes refinements of the MEP systems as we validated locations for things like cameras, electrical outlets, data ports, as well as the AV system. We've also continued to look at the energy code and refine what is required for daylighting and the skylight design at the gymnasium. Also in the budget, some of what you'll see is really just a reallocation of budgets to represent the scope of work that will be in the general contractor's bid package. When we get to the total program budget, the first line item you're going to see is the construction value. We've done some shifting around of budgets to make sure that that number is representative of what we expect to come back on bid day with the general contractor's package. So some of those reallocations represent things like builder's risk insurance, which will be carried by the GC, not by the city. Kitchen equipment, we will be purchasing some of the equipment as a separate contract to the GC, but things like the fire protection system and HVAC hood will be furnished and installed by the general contractor. I think one of the largest changes that you'll see as a reallocation is pulling the abatement of the existing community center out of the construction budget, holding that as a separate contract under the special construction line item. Lastly, there are some placeholder budgets for some landscape maintenance agreements that are again reallocations of funding that was previously established.
Excuse me, Katie, could you identify for me what MEP stands for again? Refinements
Sure.
of our alphabet, MEP.
Mechanical, electrical, plumbing.
Thank you.
No problem, thank you. All right, the last bullet I have on here is just again reiterating that we've aligned the cost breakouts with Centennial Greenway, which is also a portion of this project that will be bid out under the same umbrella with the financial breakout occurring on the back end. On the Warson Park side of things, the previous estimate was based on that conceptual design plan, as I mentioned back in February. These documents have advanced to 100% construction documents. We did pause at 50% and update our cost estimate, which again included design refinements that are an overall reduction to where we were at concept design for things like the walking paths, the landscape plantings, maintenance facilities, splash pad, and signage. Again, made some minor reallocations to construction budgets for things like signage, site furnishings, and again, the landscape agreements. And you'll see on professional services, there was an increase, but this represents the finalized cost for the topographic surveys in all of the parks. So a lot of numbers on one screen here, but what this represents is a whole lot of data kind of rolled up into as few line items as we can use for it to make sense. So you'll see the column in the middle with design development dated February 2021. This was the last update that you all had seen. So the construction budget is about 14 million of the total $16.5 million budget. Furnitures, fixtures, equipment sitting at about 581,000. Professional services just under 2 million, so on and so forth. At the time in February, we were about $560,000 over budget overall, and the City Council gave us approval to proceed with the intention that we would work to reduce costs as we proceeded through design. The next column, you will see the same series of numbers with currently an over budget amount of about $495,000. So based on those changes I've mentioned above, we have been able to reduce cost overall by about $65,000 since February. And the one thing I want to point out here is that we are still including about a 10% construction contingency in the first line items, or about 1.2 million, as well as additional owner contingency in about 223,000, which is to cover the parks. So we haven't fully vetted out those designs. We're at a concept stage, so we are carrying an additional contingency specific to the parks as we advance into more design detail. All right, so a look ahead. Where are we headed? Again, continuing to progress towards cost reductions. There are a few kind of tracks of activities that will be happening over the next several months that we believe will kind of refine where we're at overall in the budget. So like we've discussed, the cost will be bid for Warson Park and the community center. We'll be able to lock in our agreement with the general contractor, as well as bid out and procure many of those owner furnished items that we discussed on the previous list. The schematic design and design development will also be underway for the parks. So we'll have a much higher level of detail in order to be able to really fine tune our cost estimates and also target scope refinements to manage to that budget. Lastly, the city is also exploring a potential for grants like the municipal parks grant application, which could bring additional funding sources to offset project cost. So lastly, the next updates and really when we're going to bring this all back full picture to you. So in late June, we will ask for your approval to proceed to general contractor bidding. Mid-August, we will bring those bids back to you for approval for the Warson Park and Community Center package of work. And then sometime fall of 2021, we will bring back to you a full project update that brings all of those things we just discussed back to you for another big picture budget update. So with that, I am going to stop and see if there are any questions. Thank you all for your time this evening.
Any questions from the council?
Katie, do you want to stop sharing the screen for a second?
This is a lovely picture of what this building could look like at nighttime with the lights on the inside. That was a very, very pretty picture. Thank you.
If there are no questions, I think, oh, I'm sorry.
So I'm not looking to open a can of worms, but when we've been talking about recent other projects we have going on in the city, we've been talking about engaging and giving a certain percentage of the work to minority businesses and letting them apply for them as well. Or is that one of the things that we're going to be doing with this project as well? And is that written in? I don't know how if you don't write it into the RFPs, but will that be something that's going to be taken into consideration with this project as well?
that was in one of the first slides that we're going to be looking for that same 15% percentage
Okay.
of,
Okay,
of,
okay.
um,
I apologize.
yeah, that's okay.
I was reading along.
That's okay. That's all right. No
There's a
problem.
lot to take in. Thank you.
We'll go over that. Okay. Actually, Bev, if you want to talk from up there, and I was going to use my computer to just,
That's perfect. As the
to-
camera?
As the camera. So just
Okay.
one moment, please.
All right, great. So what Barb is going to do is she's going to bring her camera over so we can give you a close-up look at the finishes. You saw those beautiful interior renderings. And so now we'll take you through so you can see, if you, Barb, if you want to start on the other end. Yeah. So the very first panel she's going to show you, you've probably seen before. These are the exterior finishes. So you'll see, Barb, I apologize. Can you go on the other side so that, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so these show you the exterior, these are the actual exterior finishes of the building. So you see that rough relief stone, you'll see the wood look metal panels, the green panel. So that's, and you can come down later and touch and feel those. That's what the exterior of the building is going to look like. And now as Barb moves towards her right, we'll bring you into the lobby. So if you could zoom in on that beautiful flooring, this is our luxury vinyl tile, and it is this beautiful cross-cut wood tile. So it really brings that lovely warmth of wood into the community center, but in a finish that we'll be able to clean and maintain and has a high durability. And then we've got our paint samples there. So we have these nice muted tones with, but the camera doesn't pick up, that's actually a blue. But so unfortunately, the resolution of the colors isn't always accurate over the camera. And then we have a beautiful carpeting that is it's called the Parks, it's a park series, so which was kind of apropos for this project. And it gives the feel of water and stone on the floor as you move through the building in shadows and light. And then we have beautiful wood pieces. So the interior of the community center is open work. So when you look up, you'll see the beams. So to soften that, we have these beautiful wood panels that will hang down from the ceiling. And that's the row of wood you see there. And a lot of the ventilation and the lights will actually fit in between that in very low profile and come down through that. We'll also have some sound deafening leaves and things up there, as well as what you saw in the gym. And then a lot of casework will be these beautiful wood veneers, and they all match. Then there's some natural stone there that will reflect the stone in this building and the service counters as you come into the lobby. So there's a nice tie into this building as well. And then moving on over to our next section, this is our gorgeous kitchen. So you will see that we have the beautiful blue tile that you saw in the rendering is a herringbone. It's a wonderful tile. And then there's a countertop that ties into that, which has that mirrors those flecks of blue. We have a lovely floor that's poured in place, so it'll resist all the spills and grease and whatever happens in a kitchen, but still be strong and durable and beautiful. And then our wood paneling continues through that. And then as Barb moves over to the next section, these are our restrooms. So what you'll see here is we have these beautiful tile. These are very large rectangular tiles that'll go from floor to ceiling in a row, and that will really help those spaces feel large. And then we have a glass accent in there that'll have white behind it to sort of brighten that up. And that's about a 2-foot panel that'll run around those buildings. And then that gorgeous copper, and I don't know if it'll really show you, we have these gorgeous copper restroom partitions that are pitted. So so it's a copper color. They aren't actually copper. They're really plastic, but they're very durable. We've scratched them with keys. We've written on them with Sharpie pen, and it comes right off, but it's just lovely. And then we have that light color. That's the surfaces for the sinks. The sinks in the restrooms next to the multipurpose room will be these beautiful troughs with cut-ins and very easy to clean, but also look very elegant. Then our next section are flooring in our active areas. So the dark pattern flooring is the fitness area. So it's cushioned and it'll absorb sound and weights. And then the wood look flooring is our gym floor. And that gym floor has two tones to, the main gym is it's three tones. The main gym is that beautiful maple color. Then the free throw areas in the main basketball court are a darker color to offset that. And then we'll have the blue flooring around the edge to denote the walking path. And then the last section we have, this is our indoor playground. Again, this is from that same park series. This is beautiful carpeting that'll go in that main center area. It's durable, it's clean, it's easy for kids to play on, but it's also beautiful and really evokes grass and water and movement. There'll also be that cross-cut wood flooring in there as well. And then it also had those, you saw those beautiful sound panels that look like leaves along the walls. So that's a kind of an overview of our interior finishes. And you probably remember from the very beginning when we started talking about this building, the intent was to bring the outside in and to have a building that really captured this beautiful park-like setting around us and made sure that that was reflected in the finishes. So I think that the group that's been working on this has really created a beautiful and timeless and warm and inviting facility for our residents. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any? Okay, Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I
Yes.
figured as much, but I'd ask anyway.
we're very appreciative to all of the time and consideration that Ruth has put on this project.
Thank God she can give you the time and not have an
Absolutely.
8-hour work like you all are working and like we do. I just have a question just from
Sure.
history of gymnasium floors being wood.
Mhm,
And when I did go touch those things earlier,
mhm,
I am a touch person. I need to see, touch, feel.
mhm.
And that clearly is a glue kind of vinyl appearing wood floor. So I've never seen this product as a gymnasium floor before. How common is it? And then it's the typical wear and tear of it because this is supposed to be a gymnasium, basketball and things of that nature.
Right.
And wooden floors have always been the floor for those types of activities and sports.
Yeah.
So I just really want to understand that material and this product.
Yes, absolutely. Well, this material gives us a lot of advantages. One, it's cushioned. So it really is a wonderful surface to do lots of different activities. And remember, one of our goals was financial responsibility and sustainability. So when we put in a real wood floor, it is a significantly increased cost. And then the annual, actually multiple times per year, annual cost to maintain it are very high. And the longevity is impacted by the other activities that happen in this space. So one of the driving forces of this building is to be multi-use everything. So we have a gymnasium that's going to be used for athletic events, but it will also be used for other things. And at this time, we don't know exactly what all those things will be, but we do know that we've had several uses of our current gym by the Olivet Creve Coeur Chamber of Commerce for their trivia night. Sometimes we aren't big enough for them. So this would be a space where we could use that. This type of a floor allows us to have food and drink on it, whereas a wood floor would not. It would also give us an opportunity to have social dance in there if we ever wanted to put on a middle school dance or a 5th grade center event or something like that. We can accommodate that. But you're right, it's a very different feel. It's not your traditional gym floor, but they are installed regularly, and we can get a list of places if you want to go out and see one. We'd be happy to provide that for you.
I'd like to do
Sure.
that. Just want to curiosity. I'm not here questioning anything that's been done in materials.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
what about the bounceability of a ball? I mean, come
They're
on. You
great.
know, I
It's-
mean, I don't
it's-
know.
It's a gym floor.
Pickleball, this,
Yeah.
that, you know?
It's a gym floor. It's not a fitness floor. It really is a gym floor. I can give you the name. But it's specifically designed for athletics. So it's Omni Sports is this one. They do different thicknesses. This one's 7.1 millimeters. So it really does give you that vibrancy and that bounce. Is it Maples Pavilion? No. Is it, is it going to be the same as, I always mispronounce it, but, something at WashU or Sloop, no, it's not going to be the same. But is it going to be lively for age groupers and adults, yes.
I only have one problem with it. I appreciate all the work that you've done, that we've all done. But when I look at those colors, I still see Seattle Seahawks. I mean, it's spot on Seattle Seahawks. I mean, yes, it is.
Well,
Seattle
they're different
Seahawks.
tones from Seattle Seahawks. We don't have that predominant
Well,
blue.
that's the only reason why I'm
Yeah.
going with it, because it is
Yeah.
Olivet Green before
So-
Seahawks. So
So I do have to reassure you, the kitchen blue is not Seattle Seahawks, not
Okay.
at all. It's much more, blue. No, it's like that college team. And I'm so bad with college team names, with the basketball team with the baby blue.
North
Um,
Carolina Tar
You mean
Heels.
Tar Heels?
Yeah.
Yeah, North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm the wrong person to say college basketball names, but, I do think that the dark blue accent is, I think, the one that's really concerning you, and that's minimal. That's our accent number 2. There isn't much of that. But what you don't see, that you'll see later on as we progress further in the concept, is we will have some interior wall surfaces that have natural images on them. And that will definitely not make you think Seahawks.
Well,
I
good.
promise you, there will be no Seahawks on the walls.
Well, I have nothing further to say about that. then. Yes.
Mayor, before we move on, I'm not sure, Joel, do you have anything you'd like to add? I know you're going to be doing most of the talking when we come before the planning commission, but here's an opportunity.
No, I think, I was actually going to compliment Beverly. She paid attention when we talked about it a lot. And so she was spot on with what she was going through there and did a very good job. And so, no, it's had a good time working with the city staff at this point, and just, glad to see it continue to move forward.
Make one last comment. If I could. I have to compliment Beverly because I know that you guys know this, but Beverly has agonized over every decision. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but today we exchanged an email about grout. I mean, it's every decision has been thought out. Every decision has been made with it's a conscious choice. And I think watching you do that has been inspiring for me because, I enjoy it, but simply putting all of that on 2 tables couldn't even begin to explain or show how many samples we have seen or Beverly has seen. And to have come from everything that we pared down to that, and then to be able to show it to all of you it's great. I mean, it's really great. But yes, we are talking grout. We were talking about grout this afternoon.
Absolutely.
So, and cabinet pulls. It's every detail has to be thought out. And I think it's a lot of work, and the end result is going to be remarkable.
There's benefits to having a little OCD.
Yes.
So
Yes.
one of the things that
absolutely.
I'm very excited about is the grout, because we're gonna have dark grout, so that how many times have you gone to a public restroom and you can see where the grout is dirty and clear here and brown here.
Right.
So
So
we
we're gonna
won't
be-
have that.
No.
And I won't bore you with many more details, but one thing I'm very excited about is our restroom partitions are going to be suspended so that the cleaning can go under them, so that you won't have those little captures of dirt at the bottom of the legs.
Yep. I mean, this is
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Every detail, there have been so many details that have been thought out. You can't, it's just, it's great.
Yes, yes, that's true. The benefit of being in an older building is you see the trouble
Right.
spots, and we're trying to avoid those. So the
Exactly.
toilets are suspended. So again, so we don't wear those little areas that capture liquids at the base of the toilet. We can clean them every day.
Yep, it's great. It's great, though. It's excellent. Kudos. Thank you.
Thank you.
I found my color palette for my material palette for my new house.
And that only took what, a year
Yeah.
for that to be able to be found for you?
Okay, well, thank you, Katie and Joel.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Katie. Thank
Thanks,
you, Joel.
Right.
Next, Beverly is actually gonna stay with us, I believe, as we talk about the